Is it wrong to follow your own desires? To live and act only for the gratification of your own personal feelings? And if you aren't working for your own desires, what are you working for? For what purpose do you continue to live and act? What purpose is there in being alive if you're not happy? Or not striving for your own happiness? Within the world of Jagaaaaaan, that is a question which underpins much of the series, often most obviously displayed by the character Chihiru, who simple lives for his own reasons and seeks to push people to embrace their own desires, deeming those who only live for the sake of others as being boring and frequently disposing of them. But in less obvious ways the story itself presents this question to the viewer. For instance, the main character is asked this several times throughout the series, with him being confronted by his own desires and the distinction between the right thing and the things he wants to do. Or rather, what would be considered good by the mass when compared to what is good for the individual. I suppose the entire point of the series at its core is how selfish is too selfish. How far is too far to achieve your own desires? Many characters find their own ends this way, from the hero-loving Misogi Hakuto, who lost sight of his desires, lost sight of what he believed a hero should be, and his desperate denial of his fault caused him to become a monster. He was consumed by his own selfishness at the failure of achieving his own desire and falling into the depths of despair, because with desire comes the potential for failure. To desire something is to risk failing to achieve it. You don't desire something that you have but only that which you do not. And Misogi failed to achieve his desire, and his selfishness turned inwards, and he became the monster which needed to be put down. Motomu Robahatu is another individual who came to an end. Deserved or not isn't important, the fact that it was brought on by a search for a desire that he failed to achieve and slowly fell into despair the more he tried to fill the hole which came from it. His actions were motivated by his failing to achieve his desire and his selfishness to accept it and move on. Instead he became a monster. Only at his end did he realize just how far he had moved from his true desire. Proving another truth about desire is that we don't always understand it ourselves, we don't always know that which we desire, and Motomu exemplifies this perfectly. Yadori, he was a man who deemed himself as a nobody, another face in the crowd. Even in his own life he didn't consider himself to be the main character, and he hated it. He desired to be a protagonist, he desired to be someone important. To that end he ended up becoming a completely different person, taking on the form and persona of another. Along the way, however, he began to lose sight of himself. On several occasions he or she, depending on the form they take on, has questioned just who they are. In pursuit of their desire, they have begun to lose themselves, becoming a different person from who they were original. This is yet another display of the different ways in which someone's selfishness and endless pursuit of their desire can make them into someone else. When you give yourself entirely over to your desire, are you yourself anymore? Is the true you just that primal want? Or are you more than that? What is the core of who you are? That is a question presented to you by Yadori's story arc. I am uncertain how she or he will reach their end, if they will fully become the person they are pretending to be, becoming the mask, or will they reject their desire? Will they find a means to balance out their desire against their own self, recognizing their own self-worth and thus casting off the fake them? Who knows? Who can say? We can only wait and see. Takamatsu Mikeizuchi, a man who killed his own fractured son, a man who failed as a father and selfishly wanted to revive his son, not for the sake of the boy, but because of his selfish desire to not face the guilt of what his actions brought upon him. A man who failed and continued to fail his son as a father, seeing him as only something which existed for his own sake. This is a selfishness you don't even realize, and it is the most dangerous kind, because it is easy to mistake it for compassion or care for another when in fact it is only hurting them for your own benefit. This theme, of selfishness being mixed in with desire and despair, is something which greatly interests me and makes me think retrospectively about myself. About how far I'd go for my own goals and what it is which motivates me to keep on moving forwards. I won't say that I have a desire anywhere near as extreme as any of these guys, nor am I as much of a broken person as they are, but it is interesting to look at what is essentially some of the most tragic people in our own world, people with mental issues which go either unnoticed, undiscovered, or otherwise unnoticed that can result in the creation of a monster. So I guess at the end of the day we can only take things as far as our own selfishness will allow us to, and while we are along for the ride of this story we are waiting to see just where the limits of our main protagonist's selfishness lies. But that is all I had to say about this topic, which the story just so heavily smacks us over the head with again and again. I have been the Anonymous Weeb and I wish you a good day or night wherever you are. If you enjoyed the video feel free to like it so I know, and subscribe and ring the notification bell if you want to keep up to date with when I upload.